皆さんを私の後輩というのはちょっと変な気持ちもします。なぜかというと、私がネル大学に入ったときは、多分皆さんが思われてない人もいると思います。私がネル大学に入ったのは何年だと思いますか？じゃあ、質問聞いてみます。何年だと思います？
2000、
ああ、ぴったり。はい。その通りです。2002年です。私がネル大学に入ったのは2002年です。It was 2002 when I joined JNU as a BA first year student. And many of you probably were not born in 2002, right? And it was a long, long time ago. So it's 19 years ago. 19年前ですね。And things have changed so much now. If I start talking about my student life and how I learned Japanese, you would be surprised because it all would probably feel like a world that you don't know. You only read about in books or watched in movies probably. The main difference being the difference in technology that is available nowadays to study Japanese, and not just study from books but also audio visual and media and all that. まずは、皆さんもよく聞かれる質問だと思いますが、どうして日本語を勉強しましたかと聞かれますよね。よく聞かれますよね。私もよく聞かれます。でも、私はあんまりかっこいい答えがありません。There is no nice answer to that question about why I did Japanese. Actually, I was sure that I wanted to do some foreign language, but I didn't know which one to choose. And I knew someone who was studying in JNU at that time, and I asked him, what language is good for getting a job after I finish my BA. And then people said, Japanese is good. You'll get a job for sure if you finish a BA in Japanese. I said, okay, fine, Japanese it is. That's it. それで日本語を習うことにしました。それで2002年に入りましたが、その時はもちろんインターネットはありましたが、私たちは自分のパソコンを持っていませんでした。パソコンというのはとても高いもので、学生は大体みんな持ってない時代でしたね。で、パソコンを使いたいときは、多分皆さん見たことがあると思いますが、Center for Biotechnology ってありますね、JNU に。アドブロックの近くで、そこにパソコンがたくさんありました。パソコンといってもデスクトップの大きいものが、白くて大きいものが、デスクトップがたくさん置いてあって、あそこに行ってインターネットを使うしか仕方がありませんでした。で、インターネットはとても遅かったです。It was a very slow internet, okay? You would click on something and then you could go and have tea and come back and wait for the page to open or something. It was that slow. And we used that maybe once a week or so. So basically all of our learning was done on pen and paper, right? We photocopied books because books were not available. Nowadays, a lot of books are being printed in India. A lot of Japanese Nihongo books are printed in India. At that time, none of that is there. We photocopied books in black and white, and we had dictionaries photocopied. When I was in my BA second year or third year, that was around 2003, 4, 5, 2004 or 5. Then, of course, digital dictionaries, the NCG were there, but not everybody could afford it, of course, and it was not available easily. Not everyone got a chance to go to Japan. And let me ask you, probably some of you who are in second year, and so you've probably never even been to the campus, right? Because it's all online classes, right? Huh? What about the third years? You have been, you did a first semester in campus, right?
Yes, sir. First six months we were there.
Okay. And after that, it has all been online. Oh, I really sympathize with you because, studying in JNU is so much more than just the class. And, since Jana Sensei is not here, but you are recording it, should I say it? Okay. I learned a lot of things outside the class. Okay. And of course, you go to university to do what your major is, which is Japanese in our case. But there is also a lot of other things to learn, right? And I learned a lot of other things outside the classroom, and people used to say that, you might have heard this, or maybe since you have not been in campus for long, you might not have heard this, but people always say that, you are in Japanese. It's different from learning, say, Spanish. Don't roam around, don't sit in the dhabas, don't get involved in student politics and all that. And in our times also, we used to be told all that. You have kanji. You don't have time for anything else. If you have extra time, spend it on kanji. You know, that's all that we were told. But you know, these things that we were told not to do, sitting in the dhaba or you know, playing music or getting involved in student politics, somehow I did all of that. Everything that people told me not to do, I did all of that. And especially student politics. And people told, you know, if you're in Japanese, you are not supposed to do that. I said, okay, well, then I will do that. And I did that. And a lot of what I am now is because I did student politics in campus. Okay, please don't interpret this as my recommending you to go and take part in student politics, but I'm just telling you my story. Okay, things might not work the same way for everyone. And by the time you finish your BA and you go for your MA, or you go for a job, or you go on to another stream, leaving Japanese and going to another stream, you will realize that you are very good at Japanese, but that's it. You have no other skill because you spent all 3 years learning Japanese. So we have all gone through this. We are people who are very good at Japanese, but that's all. No, there's nothing else. Even if you are going to a MNC to work after your BA, your company would expect you to have some other skill as well, not just Japanese. You know? What good is just knowing good Japanese? Japanese people are there for knowing good Japanese. Even kids in Japan can speak very good Japanese. So what extra value are you bringing to the job? But from my BA third year, the story of my life is almost like I was destined to be where I am right now. Okay. When I thought that after BA third year, I will go and work in a company, and I did not expect, I was not sure that I'll get the Junior Mombusho scholarship, but I did get it. And I went to Osaka Gaikukugo Daigaku. 当時は大阪外国語大学と言われてましたが、今は大阪外国語大学は大阪大学の外国語学部になっています。合併しています。merged into the Osaka University. So now if you look at the internet, there is no university called Osaka Gaikukugo Daigaku, but at that time it was there. Jana Sensei also actually was there much before me. She also studied there. And there you are going to apply for Junior Mombusho in the coming year, right? Some of you, yeah. So when you look at the different universities, there are different kinds of universities. Although it's the same Nihongo, Nihon Bunka, Kenshu, Ryugakusei program, it is still a bit different for different universities. Some universities have compulsory courses, a fixed curriculum, which you have to do. Some universities have a lot of choices. Osaka Gaikukugo Daigaku was like that. There were huge number of courses that you could choose from. So there was a lot of liberty, there was a lot of choice, and I made it a point to do courses which you couldn't do in India or outside Japan. So I took up courses like Kobun. You know what Kobun is? It's like old Japanese. Okay, Furui Bun, right? Old Japanese, and I learned that, and I also learned Kambun, which was the Japanese way of reading and writing Chinese, classical Chinese, because a lot of texts from olden times are actually written in Kambun. So I also learned that. It's not the same as learning Chinese, okay? It's very different. It's the Japanese way of reading and writing Chinese. And I also took some very interesting courses. Like there was a course called Osaka Gaku, which is basically learning about Osaka, the history of Osaka and the culture of Osaka, which is very, very interesting, as you know. And speaking of which, when I went to Osaka and I heard people speaking the dialect, I was like, what is this language? I don't know this language. And it was so different than standard Japanese that we are taught. And yet it was so interesting. I'm sure since you are the Netflix generation, you have heard the Kansai Ben a lot in some movies or some serials, but we didn't at that time. And I found it very interesting. So we also did courses like the Osaka Gaku and all that. And it was really a very, very enriching 1 year. The Junior Mombusho program is, of course, life-changing for anyone who goes. And I came back after that, and I joined back to MA. And while I was doing my MA, I was not in a very good state of mind, to be honest. I don't know. This happens to almost everyone, okay? If you come back after Junior Mombusho, you feel like going back to Japan, or you feel like you don't know what you are doing with your life. And all of that happens. And again, I thought, okay, fine, I'll finish my MA and then I'll apply for jobs in Japan. I'll apply for corporate jobs in Japan. Again, destiny had something else for me. Everyone said, why don't people apply for NET and JRF, right? UGC, NET, JRF. Why don't you also apply? I said, okay, fine, I'll apply. With no hope, I applied and I got not only NET, but also JRF in the first attempt. And again, it was like a sign that, you shouldn't go and work somewhere. You should join MPhil because you get a very good scholarship. At that time, it was, if I tell you the amount of scholarship, you'll say, oh, that's not much. But at that time, it was a lot, okay? It was around 15,000, including the HRA amount. So at that time, it felt like a lot of money. And I said, okay, if I'm getting so much money just to study, I'll continue studying. I appeared for the MPhil entrance test in JNU and also in DU. And first in JNU, actually, got through the DU one and I took admission in DU. And that was a life-changing event for me because, the department in DU is very different. Okay, it's not that one is better than the other. The department in DU was very different because it was not just a Japanese department, but it's a department of East Asian Studies. And the MPhil course was also in East Asian Studies. So we got to take classes on Chinese history or Korean society or Japanese literature and everything. And the teachers there, especially of Chinese studies and all that, they were very accomplished teachers. Most of them are retired now, though. And I absolutely loved their classes, and I also loved the classes who would then become my supervisor, Professor Blitz Tanka, who is a historian of Japan. And I loved his classes as well. And then he suggested a topic, not one topic, he suggested many topics to me. And out of them, I chose one topic which I found really, really interesting. If I tell you briefly about that topic, it was, he showed me a book basically, which was, the name of the book, it was the English translation of a old Japanese book from Edo period. And the name of the book was Snow Country Tales. Okay, it was written by a person called Suzuki Bokushi. Not Snow Country Kawabata Yasunagi, okay? This was Snow Country Tales, Suzuki Bokushi. The Japanese name of the book is Bokuretsu Seppu. Okay. I'll write the kanji because you might not be. Yeah, I just wrote it in the chat. Okay. This is the name of the book. It just means Bokuretsu is the name of a place, of a region, which is basically, if you look at Japan, do you know where Niigata prefecture is? Have you heard of the Niigata prefecture? Okay, I hope you can see my screen. So this is Tokyo, right? So if you go northwest, this is Niigata. So it looks very close, right? If you get on a Shinkansen, it will take only 45 minutes. Even by a normal train, it will be like 2-3 hours maximum, not even that much. But this place gets the highest snowfall in the world. Not just in Japan, but it gets the highest snowfall in the world, while Tokyo gets very little snowfall. It's because of a very strange meteorological condition where it gets, the cool winds from Siberia crosses the Sea of Japan and picks up a lot of moisture, and that hits the mountains, which is between Niigata and Tokyo, and a lot of snowfall happens in that side, but not on this side. So this book, written in the late 18th, early 19th century, talks about the difficulties faced by people there and how people from the cities like Edo or Kyoto would go there, and sometimes even without going there, would romanticize about the snow. And he, by describing the real life struggles of the people, explained how there is nothing to romanticize, and this is a real struggle that we have to face. And he also, talks about a lot of things that urban poets or urban authors make mistakes about the conditions in Niigata. At that time, Niigata was not called Niigata; it was called Echigo. So I really love this book, and I said that I want to do this. I want to, because no one knows about this book. Very few Japanese people know about the book. So I did my MPhil on this without going to Japan, of course. I just collected as much material that I could, and I got the help of some people in Japan who sent me some material, and I wrote my MPhil on this. Then, even before I started writing my MPhil thesis, just after 1 year of my MPhil, again, I was thinking what to do. I mean, do I continue this or not? Then there was a vacancy of a teaching position in Vishnu Bharati, Shantiniketan near Calcutta. I am from Calcutta, by the way, so it was near my home. and I took that job up. I got that job and I went there. Then after 6 months, this job that I'm in right now, this vacancy was advertised, and I thought that, oh, EFLU is like the English and Foreign Language University was just made into a university. Earlier, it was just Central Institute of English and Foreign Languages, CIEFL. And so it was a doorway to a lot of possibilities at that time. And I thought, wow, this is a central university that is dedicated to the study of languages and foreign languages. So this is the best place to be in. So I left the job in Vishwabharati and I came here just after 6 months. So I was in Vishwabharati only just for 6 months. I came here, and while teaching, I wrote my MPhil thesis, submitted it. Then after that, I had to join for PhD. But for PhD, the rule in both JNU and DU is that you have to be in Delhi for the first 2 years. So for that, you have to take leave. So I took leave here, and I went back to Delhi, stayed there 1.5 years. And then I got a fellowship from Japan Foundation. And I went to this university in Tokyo called Waseda University. You must have heard of it, right? It's one of the best private universities in Japan. And it's also the university where Murakami Haruki studied. And a lot of famous people, many prime ministers, including the one who is going to be prime minister now, Kishida. You might have heard in the news that the new prime minister, he also from Waseda. So I went there in Waseda, and I studied there for 7 months. Basically, I conducted my research, I collected material. Every other day, I would go to Niigata to do field work, to collect documents, rare documents which are not available in Tokyo. And I spent a lot of days in the peak winter in Niigata to actually feel the snow. And it is out of this world. And I can't describe it, you can't imagine it until you really experience it, because in one night, there can be 5 meters of snow. Okay, in just one night, 5 meters means I'm not even 2 meters, so 2.5 times my height. Right? It's a huge amount of snowfall that happens there, and it's strange how people have learned to cope with it, adapt with it. You'll see it's snowing, and school children are walking to the schools in the snow, holding each other's hand with no parents around, and it's bizarre. Okay. But it was a really good experience. I sort of experienced what Suzuki Bokushi wrote hundreds of years ago in the book that I was doing my research on. Also, Waseda University has one of the best libraries in Japan, and especially of documents from the Edo period. So this was my journey from BA first year to now.